Welcome to the Saturday Debrief, brought to you by the Toyota Tundra. Remarkable power, undeniable presence. David King, Jack Riewoldt, Jay Clark. The winners are just as big of a story as the losers, but we're celebrating the Crows right now. A 90-point thrashing to move to 8 and 4, third on the ladder. Look out, they are a serious threat in this year's premiership race.
They're stacked. They've got a great back six. They've got really good chemistry. OK, there's not too many household names down there just yet, but everyone's an unknown until you win a flag, and then you're a household name. This is the trajectory this group's on. I think that they're charging towards a premiership opportunity as early as this year. And the list build's been terrific. You see what Dawson's been able to do for this football club. Rankin's gone to the next level. Just chatted with Rochelle just then. Ruby was terrific with Josh. He's a young man that's growing up right before our eyes. He's having an unbelievable patch of form in the last 6 weeks. They've got a lot of damage still to come. I still think their offensive game, Jack, even though they've put 131 points on the Swans, has got scope for improvement again.
Yeah, look, I think they're a beast. They're an offensive beast. I reckon their recruiting game's been fantastic as well. They go and get Peatling coming and Neil Bullen.
Yeah.
And they all have impacts in different parts of the game. So they both have, all of them have over 20 touches, clearances inside 50, and most possessions from Alex Neil Bullen tonight. The big question for Adelaide going forward is they've only beaten one side in the top 8. So they've got all this firepower. We think they're the complete package behind the ball, Kingy, as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in depth. But they have only beaten the GWS Giants that sit in the top 8. So next week's challenge against Brisbane Lions, that is going to be unbelievable.
But they have blown teams away, like unbelievably. That's their 5th win by more than 10 goals. Like they are putting teams to the sword. So there's a hunger there and a ruthlessness that's driving the Adelaide Football Club. And it's because, what is it? They've missed finals in the past 6 years. The agony of missing out with the goalpost controversy, or the score controversy 2 years ago. They should have made it. You know, they were frustrated by that, but they are absolutely blowing sides away.
And the games you're talking about, Jack, they were in those games. I mean, a 10-point loss to Collingwood at the MCG is not bad form.
Yep.
Now, they just missed out up at the Gold Coast there by a point in a cracking game on the road. So it's hard to win on the road, and they're going to have to bank their wins at home. We know that good sides do that, but they've got guys. I look at Mark Keane, and we chatted with him a couple of weeks ago, and he was terrific.
Great fun.
He's this year's Rory Lobb. He's gone to centre-half back and just made that his own. He's become impassable down there, and it's allowed those defenders around him to just play lesser roles, and they're doing that brilliantly. So I think the components are coming together.
It's a great call, because when they offered him a 4-year deal to keep him at Adelaide in the face of a big offer from Collingwood, it was scoffed at. It was mocked a little bit, and it looks bang on. That Rory Lobb, it's a great call.
Even Ben Keays, like I look at him, and there was a midfielder for them 3 years ago, but he's found his role at half forward, and he's this high impact player, high intensity. His work rate's incredible. He just gets around. He's kicked 3 tonight. He just pops up in the right place at the right time. They've got the balance that I think most clubs will be envious of.
Well, they're experiencing that satisfying feeling you get when you get the 4 points on the road. They were magnificent tonight, the Adelaide Crows, a 90-point thrashing of the Sydney Swans at the SCG. A 90-point win at the SCG, the perfect preparation for a huge Friday night date with the Brisbane Lions at Adelaide Oval. That is going to be one of the most must-watch games of round 13. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves, as coaches like to say, 1 week at a time, King Kong. And you just have to admire what they're doing at both ends of the ground. So you mentioned the stat to me, King. It's the seventh time this year Adelaide have scored 100-plus points. They only did it 5 times last year. And then down the other end, what we're seeing is they've never been this good defensively under Matthew Nicks, #1 in the comp defensively for the past 6 weeks.
Yeah, you have to get to a point where you're hard to play against to be any good in this competition. They're there defensively. Now, there's a lot of conversation about the forward mix, and I think that'll go on for another 3 months. I mean, the answer...
So you two are sitting on opposite sides of the spectrum with this conversation.
Yeah, look, I'm sort of forward-thinking a little bit. In finals, is 3 key forwards the best thing for them? And one usually misses out, but their output, King, is still been up there, and where they sit in terms of tallies of goals, they're right up there with the best key forwards in the competition. But I'm just looking at, would Matthew Nicks continually be looking, and they're going to rest Taylor Walker a little bit more during the season, is why don't they just try something? Maybe there is a better option for them up there. We see Jordan Dawson go forward and play key forward at some point in time, but that's what Matthew Nicks has obviously got the chance to do that now because they are all firing. I'm not 100% sure whether that's the way it'll look when September rolls around.
Good problems to have.
It looks like it's working on the surface. I mean, you look at some of these scores, why would they break that up, Jack, to be honest? I mean, Nicks would be delighted with it.
Yeah, no, he would be, but they've beaten one top 8 side. And I get that they've been close against Collingwood at the G. They've had some great games over the last 5 years, I suppose, against them. But that's their next step as a football club, is that they can win both ways now. They can win offensively and they can win defensively, but they need to win those tight games. And next week, it's going to be a fantastic game.
10 points to Collingwood at the MCG, 3 goals in Perth to Fremantle, 19 points to Geelong at home. That's probably the one that hurts a little bit. 1 point to the Gold Coast. I think we've got to be fair and say you're not going to win every one of those games against high-quality opponents, especially on the road. So I would like to give them a little bit of grace with that as they're building, but they've made some giant strides in 3 months of footy.
We love having the coaches on post-game on a Saturday night, and Matthew Nicks is going to join us shortly live from the SCG. You think they can win it this year.
Yeah,
what makes you think they will win it?
Because they've got a point of difference. This is where I come back to these tours. I think they're a point of difference, Jack, and you need to do something that throws your opposition out. And to get a mismatch on Walker or Thilthorpe or Fogarty, whoever it is, even if it is Dawson going forward, not many teams can clamp that next level of player coming down, that difficult matchup. And until you can pose a problem in the forward line, I don't think you can be a real threat. They've got scoring power. We've seen the last couple of weeks. Yes, they've got to do it against a great team, but I think they're defensively stable now. So things have changed for the Crows.
Let's ask the man that's in charge. I think Matthew Nicks is ready for us, is he?
I think he's listening in. We head to the SCG now and bring in Matthew Nicks. Nixie, were you just hearing Kingy's praise for the Crows?
Don't think you can win it though, Nixie. I think it's over, mate, unfortunately. Sorry about that. I see, thank God he couldn't hear that, eh?
Technical difficulties there.
We'll get back there.
Nixie, have we got you? I think we may have lost Matthew Nicks, so maybe you'll have to repeat your praise in a minute or two when we get technical difficulties sorted out there.
Kathy was under real pressure only, 20 games ago, 15 games ago. Yeah. So it is funny how these coaches and those the Adelaide Crows that know, finger on the pulse, said, no, we're staying the course here. Let's not jump at shadows. We know what we're building, and we're now starting to see the fruits of their labour.
He's been a great friend to Super Saturday, and we've spoken to him pre-game. We spoke to him pre-game at the Gold Coast. You mentioned the 1 point loss that they had up there, and we asked him the question, what have you been doing differently this year? And he actually said, I'm doing less. So I think that's what happens, especially in a two-team town in Adelaide, is that the pressure comes on, and naturally, as the leader of the football club, you go, I want to do everything. I want to go and fix the defence. I want to go and fix midfield. I want to talk to players. But the sign of a good leader is placing the trust in his group, and it's
Jack,
something that he's been able to do. We've got him this time,
I think we've got him this time, so let's head back into the SCG change rooms. Nixie, have you heard any of our praise for you over the past 5 minutes? We've been singing your praises.
Yeah, I have. Thank you. Appreciate that. And I did nothing tonight. Absolutely nothing. So... yeah, we've been actually working with Dawson on something similar. You know, what a good leader does is play their role, execute what you want to execute, and for him, I thought he was amazing tonight, even though it might not look like that on the stat sheet. So we're both working in that space, trying to do less and trust our teammates.
I'm looking across the squad at the moment, and every week you learn something different about your players and your team as a collective. Nixie, what did you learn tonight that potentially you didn't know coming into the occasion?
Well, I mean, we're obviously working on what we're doing away from home. It's, you know, we play a lot of tough teams on the road. We get Collingwood MCG, and we come up here and play Sydney at the SCG, and it hasn't been a happy sort of stomping ground for us. It's been a tough one, and tonight was just a sign of, you know, that we've taken a step in the right direction. We're a more ruthless side. You've got to be that to beat Sydney up here, and even the start of tonight's game, I thought it was a really tough contest. We knew they'd bring it, but we matched it and some. And so that was really pleasing. And even the start of the third or start of the second half, they came out, kicked 4 in a row, but our boys were able to steady themselves and show some maturity that we've been working on to kick the next 6 or 8 odd goals. I'm not sure what it was in the end. So really pleased with that part.
Nixie, you must be proud of Josh Rochelle. He wind the clock back 6 months and you dropped him for the last game of last season, and he's certainly repaid the faith that you and the football club have shown in him.
Yeah, there was never a doubt in that. We knew what a high character he was, and unfortunately we had a certain set of values we lived by, and it was like, well, I don't really want to take you out, but this is something that we have to do if the values are real, otherwise it's just writing on the wall. And so we went through it. He was so mature through that process. It was a tough one being the last game of the year, and he had a lot of time to go away and work through it, but I had absolutely no doubt we'd see Josh Richelli at his best this year, and probably even he's done that even faster than I thought. Right from the start, he's been a really influential player for us, so I'm really proud of what he's done.
And Nixie, we know some players have got absolute licences. What did you think about the Messi style outside of the boot through ball to Ben Keays through the middle of the ground? What page of your coaching manual does that feature?
He can do that whenever he wants if he gets the same result. We actually looked at each other in the box. We said he actually meant that, which he did. There's a background there. I mean, he's got a soccer background. He represented the country at soccer before he took over. He took over the game of Aussie rules. So, look, when things are going your way and you're getting a lot of things right, you're executing what you've said you would coming in, then it's amazing how some of those moments show themselves. Where you do something special that everyone will remember, but we'll look back on some of the things he's done where he's playing an important role in a position we needed him to, whether it was being in Blakey's way or whether it was him helping out on Warner or Heaney. There was some stuff he did tonight that was much more important to us than that soccer, but we enjoyed the soccer at the same time.
Maybe to you, Nixie, but not to us. So we're just quickly going to show you the official onside or offside debate. We've settled it here. The lab rat's been busy at work downstairs. He's just had a quick look, so you can confirm to Josh that he was definitely onside.
Very good.
No, well done. Well done. A bit of soccer background, smart by him. I mean, it is. That's what some of the best players in the game do. He's working on, he's doing whatever he can, and he's working really hard to become one of those players. And as I mentioned tonight, we were up against, a team that had, 3 or 4 of those, and so it was nice for him to get his moment.
3 lumps or 2 into a final series. 3 big tools or 2 big tools. It's been the argument outside looking in what works better for you. You're loving what the 3 tools are doing at the moment, I take it.
Yeah, as I said, well, it's all team. I mean, whether it's 3 tools or not, it's the guys are playing important roles where they have to. So our tools are unique in that they can play, when the ball's on the ground as well. Riley Thilthorpe's a really unique player. He quite enjoys the ball being on the ground. Long arms and Fogg's very similar. So although people are talking about them as though we've got these 3, giants ahead of the ball, they've definitely got rounded games. So there's something we'll keep working on. I would love to see our form stay where it is, but we understand, form is fickle, and we're going to ride it and make the most of it while we are in good nick.
What a game you've got next week, Nixie. But can you tell us about the belief in the groove? You haven't played finals yet. What can you achieve this year? What is the big picture? What is the belief like in this football team?
Oh, the belief at the moment is as high as it's been, and we're not going to avoid that. We're not going to try and sweep that away. We're going to keep that. We want that confidence, but it's a balance. It's a balance and a respect for the game to know that the competition's so even. We can have a performance like we did tonight, and then next week we come out against Brisbane and we know we'll be up against the best. So it doesn't matter who we're playing against. We've got a lot still to work on. Even out of tonight's game, there's a patch where we'll look back on it and we'll want to learn. So we've been through enough pain over the last 5 years that we know how quickly things can turn around. We'll make sure that we're going to enjoy it while we're here.
A word on Mark Keane, obviously the heroics in the showdown and the mark that he took to save the game. But then tonight, another fascinating output, a fantastic output from Mark. He's starting to become your mainstay down there, your big defender, and he's certainly got the back 6 that are surrounding him as well.
Yeah, he's so unique, Keaney. He's, I know that's a good word, but it's the one we use for him because he's at his best. He's one of the, I believe one of the best key backs in the game. And he hasn't scratched the surface yet on where he can get to. More so from a consistency point of view. There's some decisions that he's made across the early part of his career where we look back and we'd like him to be a bit better. I know everyone's on edge when he gets the ball, but tonight I thought he was so mature tonight with the footy. I thought, contest was where it was every week, but when he had his chances with the ball in hand, I thought he was really mature, and it showed, another step for him, another development step that we're really pleased to see.
So 8 and 4 Nixie games against Brisbane and Hawthorn before the bye. Given where you're sitting and also how you're playing, is this where you thought the team would be, where you hoped they would be, or are you almost exceeding your own expectations you had at the start of the season?
Look, I'm really pleased at where we're at, more so from, I guess, the consistency of our form. You know, if we put our quarters together this year, that, you know, we're performing really well when it comes to winning games, quarters of footy. So they obviously add up and get you the job where you need it. Even in our losses to this point, you know, we've lost to some really good sides, Gold Coast by less than a kick, and Geelong put us away. So really pleased with where we're at. The win-loss looks after itself. And so we haven't even really focused on that. We'd be lying if we said we didn't look at our next 3 weeks. Sydney was tonight, and know that it was going to be a really tough finish for us to go into the bye. But, you know, to take this first one, we'll now step on to Brisbane and understand the challenge that comes with that. But we're not looking at the ladder as such. We're not looking at win-loss at the moment. We've got KPIs that we're all in for, and we would have smashed those out of the park tonight.